This meeting to order, and we are going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
under
one
God,
nation, under God,
liberty,
indivisible,
justice.
justice.
Okay, does any members like to take anything out of the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mariah.
Holly Allen is absent. Hannah Ayotte,
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. So that passes. We're at 3 spotlight. Sonia Whip, how are you today?
Hi, how are you? Good, thank you.
You know, I missed the agenda meeting this week, and I see that you have a chock full stuff on your under spotlight. So that wasn't my doing. So you know,
Okay, well, I went with what I was given, so
hey, that's what I do at home. It's given to me, I go with. So I understand. So 3-1 International Baccalaureate, which, as you know, is pretty important to me. So go ahead.
yep. Can you go down to the next slide, please? Thank you. Go on to the next slide. I just want to point out the mission of the International Baccalaureate, because I think one of the things that we're going to be doing as we're moving forward towards implementation is really focusing on this as a school community. So I just want to make sure that we're all aware of what the mission statement is. And what the IB does is aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and I can't see this, hold on, I've got a, there we go. Aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. To this end, the organization works with schools, governments, and international organizations to develop challenging programs of international education and rigorous assessment. These programs encourage students across the world to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners who understand that other people with their differences can also be right. One of the things that we're focusing on is making sure that as we make sure we're aligned to Rhode Island high quality curriculum materials, that the goals of the programs that we're using also align with IB. So that's one of the key components that we're looking at right now. And this will definitely be the framework of everything we do for the upcoming years. And this aligns nicely with our school mission statement. We made sure that everything is in alignment. Can you move on to the next slide, please? And I see that Kelly Cole is also here. So one of the things that Kelly and I did over April vacation was attend a Leading the Learning Category 2 workshop, where we really got to pick the brains of some schools that have been in IB for many years. Most of the schools that were represented in the workshop were working on getting their reaccreditation visit. So it was really good to be able to network with some people that have been involved for many years. The key elements of the IB education are the international minded, the IB learner profile, a broad, balanced, conceptual and connected curriculum, and the approaches to teaching and learning. Could you go down to the next slide, please? And Kelly, do you just want to address the learner profiles, the ATLs, or the direction?
Oh, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep coming in and out. I apologize. If you can't hear me, just let me know. Yeah, sure. So I did speak with Nicole Jones last week, and she gave me some guidance on sort of where we're at and where we, are going from here until we get evaluated. And she just wanted to make sure that parents and administrators and school committee members and community members really know what the IB learner profile is. And I'm not sure if you can see that. I mean, it's a little small on my screen, but when the evaluators come around next year, they're going to be doing some interviews with those same people, the students, the parents, and you folks that are here at this meeting. And they're going to be asking, what are the learner profile traits? So these are the most important. Like I said, they're a little small, but what we're doing in IB is we're teaching the whole child, right? So we're not just teaching content, we're teaching them how to become lifelong learners. And so I'm just gonna read off some of them. You know, we're teaching our students to be caring. We're teaching our students to be open-minded, to be reflective. I know one of them, there's risk takers. I talk about it all the time in my class. So all of the IB teachers have these learner profile traits up around their room. So we're talking about these all the time with our own students. Our next steps, myself and Sonia, we just need to somehow get that information out to parents and out to community members so everybody understands what the goal of IB really is. This slide right here that you see, this is just an extension of that. So like, how do you teach the whole child? How do you teach a student to be reflective? They're called teaching these approaches to learning skills. They're called ATL skills. And the 5 up top, the thinking skills, social skills, communication, self-management, and research skills are really the 5 umbrella topics that we should, all of the IB teachers should be talking about on a daily basis. So when we're creating our IB units, we're actually incorporating all of these things inside of those units to make sure that we're teaching these skills, right? We're actually putting it on paper to say, yes, this is how we're teaching social skills or self-management skills. So that's what the teachers are working on right now. How are we going to embed this, what you see on the screen? How are we embedding this into our everyday teaching? I'm not sure what more there is on these slides, but Sonia.
That was what I put for the talking points, Kelly, because
okay.
The next steps for us is to begin, and I know it goes along with some of the school committee goals, is to be thinking about how to market what we're doing, how to share information. Mm-hmm. One of the schools that we were in the workshop with shared some brochures that they share with their community members, and just getting all of this information out in chunks that are easily digestible for the community. So Kelly and I will start working on that in the upcoming weeks.
Yep, and just to give you an update too on the evaluation process, so you kind of.
Can I just add something real quick there?
Yep.
When you said that you get some advertising from other schools, I just want to say this and see if I'm right. When we do get accredited, we'll be the only public school in Rhode Island that has the middle years program. Am I correct?
Yes.
So I'd like to get that on our brochure for sure. I'm going to mute now.
Okay. So just to give you an update on our timeline. So when I spoke to Nicole last week, I was very happy to hear that Nicole feels as though we are right where we're supposed to be. We're right on track in creating our unit planners, on starting to talk about what Sonia just said about communication with parents and with community members. Teachers are also going to start thinking about assessment. How are we going to assess our students? The rubrics that we're going to use, how are we going to give feedback, how are we going to, once again, teach our students to be reflective. And so we're right on track. Nicole plans on coming into Wilbur. She's going to travel back up here next February or March. So next February or March, what she's going to be looking for isn't necessarily are all the teachers finished with their units. It's actually, she's looking just for things that are in progress. So as long as we're touching upon all these things, as long as we're getting feedback to the students, using the rubrics, making the IB units, everything doesn't necessarily need to be completed by that time. She just needs to make sure that things are in progress. She will literally have a checklist when she comes in, and she will simply check off the things that we are doing and the things that are in progress. And then she's going to create a report for us, which is going to also include the things that we need to work on. And then at that time, if you think about it, that's March of 2022. At that point, once she gives us that report, it's literally called a consultant report. Once she gives us that report, we then have about 6 months to sort of fix the things that she wants us to fix or improve things that she suggests. And then the evaluators come in. So we're looking at evaluators coming into our school by fall of 2022. And at that time, I told Nicole that my goal as a coordinator, and I'm sure Sonia will say the same, our goal is to get it in the first shot, right? As soon as the evaluators come, we are hoping that we are doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, and that we will become an authorized school at that time. If not, she said that may not happen. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does. There's always little things that need to be tweaked here and there. At that point, either they will revisit, or actually they'll do some Zoom meetings or emails. We will have communication, and we simply just need to fix the things that need to be fixed. And then we're looking at authorization at that point. So I am confident that we will have authorization by the end of the school year 2022-2023. That's our timeline. And Nicole approves. That's what she thinks the timeline should be as well.
Can I ask you a question? Kelly, as the COVID protocols ease, how's that affecting the Wilbur's IB progress?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've actually learned that the workshops, like Sonia and I took, we've been doing, or IB has been doing virtual workshops where instead of people traveling, they actually just do a 3-day really intense virtual workshop. And they're actually finding, Nicole says that they're actually finding it's working out better. So that means that anyone who has not taken a Category 1 workshop, we have more availability. There was limited availability, I would say 6 months ago. Now there's more availability simply because, yes, you can start traveling. They are opening up some face-to-face workshops, but now they're actually including those virtual workshops. The thing is, those Category 1s, the one that I want to sign some people up for in June, in June, is already full. So people are really jumping on top of these virtual workshops. I do have a call placed in to the woman who runs these workshops to see if our teachers can still be added. But if not, the next round is actually in October. So I don't know if they're going to be adding any more virtual workshops during the summertime. I'm hoping.
Kelly, how many teachers at Wilbur are going to be the middle years teachers?
I think we've said 14, Sonia, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's approximately 14.
So you got 14 teachers out of, what do we got, 29, 30? Is that right?
About, yes,
How many?
about that.
30.
Some people, yeah, 30-ish.
Let's say 30. So half of our staff is going to be in this program.
At this point, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And most have already received that Category 1 workshop training. We're only talking 3 people, maybe 4, that still need to attend that category workshop training. So that's why I'm trying to get them into the June session. But if not, Nicole said that, you know, it's very rare for a school to have all of their MYP teachers that have actually gone through a category workshop themselves. If you're talking about the Chicago school system, obviously all of those teachers have not gone to a workshop themselves. They typically have one person who goes and then disseminates the information from there. So she says that we're actually very, very lucky that we actually have the ability to send each and every one of our teachers. So so that's a plus on our end.
Have all 14 of those teachers traveled for IB training?
No.
Traveled, no, because you can also, prior to the virtuals, they were doing, it's like a month-long, I'm trying to think of exactly what they call them. It's still virtual, but it's not synchronous. So it's asynchronous, and it would happen over the course of a month. So some of our teachers did participate in those. I myself participated in one of those, and then some of our teachers actually did travel.
Have there any of the 14 have not done anything?
Everyone has participated in a PD session with myself. And I have, like I said, disseminated a lot of information. Like I said, I think there are 3, maybe 4, but I think 3 who have not taken a Category 1 workshop. They will take it hopefully in June.
And what
And
we
And Nicole
found,
met with them too.
yeah, Nicole met
And
with
Nicole
all of
came.
them at the beginning of the school year.
That's right.
And we're at the point where we're down to 1 or 2 people to get all of the core disciplines covered. And now we're pulling some of the support people, like the next round would be people like Mrs. Giles and Mrs. Miller. So we're really making sure that everybody that's involved with working with middle school kids will have some type of session with IB, in addition to in-house PD from Kelly.
Is there anything the school committee can do to help speed that up?
To get the workshops to the teachers, is that what you mean?
Mhm.
They're only offered through the IB website. So the only thing that we can do is attend the ones that are on their the ones that they offer. So like I said, the ones that they're offering at the moment are June, I'm going to say 15th, 16th, and 17th. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then the next one that they're offering is Columbus Day weekend, whatever those dates are. I'm not exactly sure of those dates.
I guess what I'm saying is there any way that we can get a program to incentivize these teachers to do this quicker?
I don't know that, I mean, we're pretty much going as fast as we can. I don't know that we have the capacity to go much quicker. I'm not sure that there's, between the June dates that look like they're full and the October dates, I don't think there's sessions that they could go to over the summer. Is that correct, Kelly?
Exactly, because what you have to think is this is it's a global program. So the other virtual sessions that they're offering, I'll just give an example. There was one I was looking into. It is in Qatar, I believe. And so the timing of that session is actually like 1 o'clock in the morning, our time, and, 9 a.m. their time or something along those lines. So we can't physically, unless we're going to go at 1 a.m., which I don't think we are. But those are the other sessions that they're offering. So it's literally, you have to take a session that they're offering at a time in our Eastern time zone. They actually go off of, it's GMT time. So you actually have to work out the times that these workshops are being offered as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
And the other
that for
thing,
me.
the other thing that we'll do, Chairman McHugh, is keep our eyes on if new workshops are added, because it is possible that as we go into the new school year, that they broaden their range of what's offered.
I do want to just, I don't know how much time I have, and please stop me if I don't have enough time, but just to give you an idea of, you know, the work that the teachers are putting in right now and the conversations that are had, even if, you know, I'm thinking of one teacher in particular, even though she has not attended a Category 1 workshop, she still meets with me and the team, the 7 and 8 team, every single week for 1 hour. So she is still, and we are still putting together those unit plans, even though she hasn't taken one of those you know, one of those Category 1 workshops. So I'm still delivering that information and she can still participate. It's just she's not privy to some of the things that the others were able to gather from the actual workshops themselves. So, you know, the 3 most important things to think about when we're creating these units, and the information that I'm giving to teachers and the information that I'm even giving to you folks right now, the 3 most important things when you're thinking of IB and you're teaching in an IB school, there's 3 things. Number 1, it's inquiry based. So are we using critical thinking skills and are we using inquiry based skills in our classroom? It depends upon the type of question you're asking. Like the questions that we should be asking in an IB school, the way that some people put it, those answers can't be Googled, right? If we're asking a student a question that the answer can be found on Google, it's not inquiry based. We want students to be able to utilize the knowledge that they have to come up with their own answers, their own voice, use their own voice. The second thing is making those global connections. So are all of our teachers making sure that inside of their units, there's some way, somehow, transporting our students from Little Compton and making them see what life looks like on the other side. And as long as, and I know that our teachers are doing that right now, there is some great stuff that is coming out of these IB units. I'll just give, you know, a couple examples really quick. I know that 5th grade ELA, they're going to be doing a unit about Jackie Robinson and talking about how different cultures and different backgrounds, the ways that they have influenced sports in the United States with it, which I think is just amazing. I know that in 7th or 8th grade ELA, Mr. Tomaso is going to be reading a book called The Lost Boys of Sudan, where he's literally comparing and contrasting you know, lives here in Rhode Island compared to student life in Sudan. Which I also think is amazing. We talked about in our PE curriculum, we're creating, you know, helping to create that PE curriculum. We talked about how we could talk about infectious diseases and how you can actually bring in, you know, what is a pandemic? And do you think that a pandemic would come up again in the next 20 years? You know, these are just some of those global connections that teachers are already bringing into their classrooms and plan on bringing into their classrooms. So even though those teachers haven't gone to those workshops, they're still thinking, they're still using and utilizing those IB, you know, the IB method, the IB practice. And then the third one is, you know, are they connecting it, you know, are they doing a project that connects to the real world? So myself and Mrs. Corrigan talked about maybe the kids could build, you know, those free bookstores that people now have out on their front lawns, right? Could we do one? Could we build one? Could we design one in our design class? And could we actually have the kids build one and put them in various places around Little Compton and, you know, have the kids actually take care of it? So again, I just want to say that even though some of the teachers haven't been privy to some of the information, they are certainly understanding the IB practice in and of itself. We're making it happen.
Kelly, thanks for demystifying that. And it's exciting we're getting so close. I don't even want to ask this, but really quick, if we were to lose one of the 14 teachers after we get accredited in a few years and they retire or whatever, obviously the other 13 will take over. And so, but how do we get that 14th? How do we train one up?
Yep. Yep. So we talked about that, Sonia and I, in our last meeting with, the workshop we attended, because the workshop we attended was literally about leadership, and that was part of it. When you have so much teacher turnover, what do you do in those circumstances? Number one thing is you don't get rid of those units. You simply them on. You never recreate the wheel, right? So even if me and Mrs. Corrigan create those free, libraries, we will still continue to do that even if one of us leaves. So it's really important to create these units now and to make them long lasting. So you just simply hand them to that next teacher. And then of course, my job as a coordinator would be at that point to help them understand what IB is all about. Just like I'm trying to help you all understand what IB actually is, I would hope to take those, any new teacher and have a PD session with them just to really explain what IB is and how we at Wilbur embody that method.
Thank you for that. I think that's all the questions I have.
Oh, that's good.
All right. I didn't mean to talk so.
Anyone
No,
else have a question about IB?
I
We can
do.
go back. We can go back to it later in the agenda if we need to.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly and Sonia. Sonia, so you're still going, Sonia. 3.2,
Patrick,
Social Emotional Learning and Educational Equity Committee report.
am I muted?
It's got to be an acronym for that, no?
No, I can hear you, Mike.
SEL. Oh, Mike, I'm sorry. You have a question?
Yes, I did.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
This is to go back to Kelly for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Um,
Turn up my
at
volume.
our last update that we had, sorry, there you are, is you were here with Mike Tomaso to give us an update of how you guys were incorporating the IB skills, we'll say, into your classes. Right now, that's being done 5 through 8. There's some sort of IB skills are trying to be incorporated into the different classrooms. So I guess one of the things that I would ask, and I asked this the last time, was that if we could get feedback from other teachers and actually have them come here so that we can actually see what they have to say. And I understand you're the coordinator and basically you're the pinwheel, basically pushing all this stuff out, but it would be nice to hear the feedback from the other teachers as well. And you can bring Mike back. That's the only thing I would have to say.
Yes, I did mention something the last time that we spoke, and they're a little jittery because they're unsure of how great the stuff that they're doing really is. And I just keep on telling them everything that they're doing is they're just knocking it out of the park. And I'm hoping for you to see even just one of those things that I just mentioned. And hopefully they will come on and they will show you. I'll get them here. We'll get them here.
Some feedback is better than no feedback, so we have a better understanding coming from the people that are in the trenches, so we understand what's going on. That's the way I look at that.
And this year, we're kind of going back and forth between them dabbling with things that they're doing in classroom now versus planning for next year. So it's when they're working in their meetings with Kelly, some of it's working on things that they're doing now, some of it's planning for the 21-22 school year. So they're kind of living in both worlds.
Mr. Ocha, we're actually doing I'm trying to get together it's going to be a Pablo Picasso unit where actually we're doing something interdisciplinary with Mr. DeLeo and Miss Oriole and Mr. Kirby, which is going to be pretty cool. And I'm hoping to do that in June. So I think you'll be seeing something at least from the fall.
I like grape.
I didn't say that, but I'm hoping to get the four of us together to show you what we've been working on, just to give you a little glimpse of what IB really is, and to show you how it can actually, you know, the teachers are all working together in those interdisciplinary units, and I think the kids are going to love it. I think it's going to be really cool. So hopefully the next time I see you.
One last thing is that if you do get to that point where you do those pop-up libraries stands that you're referring to, reach out to me at that time, if you would.
Sounds good.
Being there,
Absolutely.
it's a spot for you.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, anyone else on that one? Okay, thanks. SEL report. Sonia Whip.
All right, so if you can go to the next slide, John. Thank you. Mrs. Miller, are you with me?
I am. Hold
All
on.
right. What
We
I
have
did,
some congratulations for Mrs. Miller today. Teacher, did I read something over Facebook today? She's teacher of the year in the country or something I saw.
yes, I think Mrs. Mitchell is going to address that a little bit later,
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but yes, Mrs.
Sorry.
Miller was named our teacher of the year. So Mrs. Miller, what I did was I just put some bullets from the last meeting. So do you want to just talk to the bullet points a little bit?
Absolutely. Okay, so the first item is we did change the name from just the Social Emotional Learning Committee to the Social Emotional Learning and Educational Equity Committee. And the committee at our April meeting discussed this quite a bit, and we felt that it would better reflect our goals at this point, as we are working on inclusion and fairness, diversity as part of our goals. So that was our first item. The second is we are looking to explore the possibility of having a speaker in June, either in person or remotely. In person, if we could do something outside, socially distanced. If not, then doing a virtual presentation. We have two speakers that we've been researching who we've heard some rave reviews about. So we are exploring their availability as one of our end of the year activities for students. We also have been exploring bringing the Katie Brown educational program to Wilbur McMahon for the 2021-2022 school year. This is a program that is actually it's run out of New Bedford. It's a program that promotes respectful relationships and teaches relationship violence prevention. It is targeted for 4th to 8th grade. And Katie Brown was a young woman from Barrington who was actually murdered around the year 2000 by her boyfriend. And her parents, after that, got very involved with a doctor that they were friendly with in developing this program. It's very well respected. We reviewed some of their materials and information at the last meeting. And I will also be working on writing a grant to help with the funding in hopes to bring that to Wilbur McMahon next school year. Developmentally, they do a nice job of starting 4th grade, just healthy relationships between friends, and it progresses appropriately through the years, with the higher middle school grades really focusing on relationship violence prevention. We are continuing to explore resources for our continued goal of education around racism and diversity, continuing to enrich those opportunities and embed it right in our curriculum. There's a lot of it that is already happening, and kind of similar to some of what Kelly spoke about with IB, is we're looking at how do we tie some of these pieces we're doing together. So something we might be doing during advisory with the kids is also carries over into something they might be reading in ELA or talking about in social studies. So bringing those strands in a more cohesive way. I'm just continuing to build on that. And then the final piece that has been an ongoing theme for our committee meetings this year is COVID-related, SEL COVID-related issues. And I will say the kids are really doing a great job. Things are going really very well. We've brought back almost all of our distance learners. I believe, Sonia might have the number, we have 96% of our students in person at this point. We've done a lot to support those students as they come back because for some of them it's been, you know, a year or over a year since they've been in the building. But kids are doing well. Some of our parents have thought the children might need a slower approach, maybe coming in half days, and the kids generally, once they get there, don't want to leave, which is wonderful. They're really happy to be back with their peers and doing in-person learning again.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Any
And
questions for Mary Elizabeth? Go ahead, Sonia, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Do you need to jump off the call, Mrs. Miller?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Moving on to the next one, 3-3 Teacher Appreciation Week.
All right, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. We didn't have as an elaborate of a theme as we have in past years when we've been able to have more volunteers in the building, but we certainly did recognize and honor our teachers all week. You see some Wilbur McMahon School word art that has all of our staff members listed on the left. The teachers received a gift card for Art Cafe so that they could walk up the street and get a coffee at some point during the day. They also got a scratch lottery ticket. The Commissioner of Education pushed out thank you tokens to teachers. There were 3 different books that were provided to teachers throughout the state. The picture that you see there, Thank You Teacher, was the book that Wilbur McMahon staff got, and also our teacher assistants were able to get that. Plus, there was a couple of mornings of breakfast provided by Mrs. Mitchell and the district staff, and lots and lots of recognition from families to various staff members throughout the week. Did I leave anything out of that, Mrs. Mitchell?
No, I think that was it. You know, we just celebrated them all week. They had lots of carbs and coffee, and some of the parents sent in some lovely treats, including PVD donuts that were just, you know, the size of a small child. They were huge. It was sort of low key. Usually we have organized groups of parents, you know, PST and so forth, but with COVID and everything else and other changes, so it was more homegrown last week. And between district and building admin, we feted them every day, and we do fet them all the time. Every week they do get special treats from the district administration, and but they get more so last week.
Yep. All right, and that's it for teacher appreciation.
Thank you. 3-4 End of year activities.
Okay, can you just go to the next slide, please? Right now, I have put a list of what is on the schedule right now. There are a couple of things that will be added, but just so that you have a heads up on what's happening and when. Monday, June 14th, we will do an 8th grade semi-formal. It will be at Wilbur outdoors. We're working out the details of that, but they will be getting a meal have the same DJ that they would have had at the Point Club. So a lot of the same details will be folded into the evening. They will get their yearbooks that night. It'll be supervised by Wilbur staff. So we're working out some special details for that. With the rain date will be June 15th. On June 16th, with a rain date of the 17th, we're going to do a field day. Since we are not doing out of district field trips, the leaders for our field day will be the combination of the 7th and 8th graders this year. So that they will be either running stations or working with the kids that are, as they travel to the various stations. We are working with the most current guidance and figuring out what the safest way to move kids around in field day stations and what games. We might need to modify some games so that we are meeting COVID regulations, but we're working on that. We have contacted Chartwells and they will be doing a cookout on the 16th. The cookout has to be on the 16th, even if we do have the field day on the rain date, because that's the only available, they don't have the availability to give us a rain date. So one way or the other, they will have the cookout on the 16th, and we would provide them with a bag lunch on the 17th if we end up having the event on the 17th. On Sunday, June 20th, we will drop the video presentation of the 8th grade awards program, which is similar to the format that we did last year. The live portion of the graduation will be Monday, June 21st. That will be we're working on specific details, but we're thinking about having the 8th grade students sitting on the front lawn with the audience at in the Pikes Peak area, and doing the children walking to get their diplomas with some limited speakers. For instance, the valedictorian speech, and a couple of our dignitaries would speak on that night. And then ending, the car parade last year was very popular, so we are looking at ending the night with a car parade so that they would get to do that element of what we did last year. And there will be more things coming. I know Miss Oriole is actively working on a virtual talent show again, and various grade levels may be doing some virtual trips or some local trips, and as much as things that are fairly local that we can get them to in small groups relatively easily. So that is what's on tap right now, and I will keep you updated in the weekly updates as to what's been added.
Principal, a quick question. When do the PHS seniors walk the halls at Wilbur?
They have not contacted me yet, but we definitely will figure out a way to do that. And I would, weather dependent, I would be inclined to have them, the PHS students, walk the track with kids outside lining the circle and having them walk the track. So we will definitely work with Portsmouth when they set a date for that.
I know that they set a date for their seniors to go to their middle school.
Okay, I can reach out and find out when that is. We can very easily work with their dates. I think that, you know, we've got a very easy way to make it happen. I just need to coordinate with them what the date will be.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Patrick, yes.
Go ahead.
Sonia, can I ask, have you thought about using just Pikes Peak itself for graduation? So you don't have traffic going in between, passing through, parents sitting on one side and kids being on the other?
We just started talking about graduation last week, and I honestly, we had not talked about solely Pikes Peak. So let me bring that to our committee and see what they think.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Superintendent, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
We have a 4-1 Wilbur McMahon School Hybrid Learning Model. Go ahead.
Yes, I'll tack on some information following up on what Mary Elizabeth Miller reported out. And we are at 98% in person right now, up from 84% in September. So that definitely is a testament to the community's trust in the school, in the principal and staff, and all of the mitigation efforts that we have in place. Obviously, this hybrid school year is a result of the pandemic, which has caused a 12-month disruption in every sector. And getting back to International Baccalaureate, last spring we had teachers scheduled to fly to Orlando, Chicago. I was going to head to Toronto in July last summer. So there's just so much disruption, 12 months of no IB training for anybody anywhere in the world. So I think that's why they're so far behind, and they're, you know, busting at the seams when it comes to workshops that are already scheduled and closed because they're full. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that IB opens up more opportunities. Today I needed a kid fix, you know, just working with budgets and getting ready for financial town meeting and reconciling everything in Excel grants, IDEA, you know, Title II, Title IV, all that fun stuff. And everyone was in testing except grades 2, 1, and kindergarten. And so I did go and have fun in those classrooms. Obviously, I did not cause a disruption myself, pretty quiet. But I was in one of the kindergarten classes, and up on the Promethean board was one of the little kindergarten kiddos at home who's a distance learner, while another kindergartner in person was at the Promethean board, while his little story that he had written was being projected by using a document camera. And this little guy his public speaking skills were amazing. And so was his little story being projected for everybody. And so this hybrid school year just came into absolute sharp relief while I was in there, and everything was working with a beautiful synergy. The kids had just read a book by Ellen Jovanik called "What If Everybody Did That?" And so, you know, what if everybody threw trash on the ground and littered, and you know, the whole world would be filled with yuck yuck. And so each of the children had to come up with a, you know, what if everybody did that supposition, and then some text, and then some graphical content. And so here we had kids in school, kids up on the Promethean board at home, a document camera. It was absolutely perfection. And so that is the end of my 4.1 agenda item. It was a sight to behold, and I invite, one at a time, anyone who wants to come on site and take a look at just what Wilbur McMahon has done during this school year with technology, with instructional strategies, with IB, with intercultural development, dovetailing with IB, and, you know, local, national, and global calls to action around diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm so glad I needed that kid fix, and I got out of my hovel, as I call it. Human resources. Okay, well, I'm going to open with congratulations to our wonderful Mrs. Gay. Deb Gay, after 34 years at Wilbur McMahon, is retiring. She has submitted her paperwork, and we reluctantly accepted and absolutely wish her Godspeed in her post-retirement life. She's been a part of Wilbur McMahon School since 1987. She has served the children of Little Compton as their bus monitor, as a beloved teacher assistant, and as a dedicated custodian, often overlapping these responsibilities in a given year, sometimes in a given day. Deb always recognized former students and greeted them with a hug. I'm new to the Little Compton community. I got a lot of hugs and kisses from her the past 3 years, happily. I would lean in. She's just like the welcome wagon, you know, in Little Compton and Wilbur McMahon. In a few cases, Deb was fortunate enough to also get to know the children of former students. Anyone who knows Deb has heard her contagious laugh. It's like a cackle. And seen her boundless energy. We're grateful for the decades of love and support Deb has bestowed upon our staff and students, and we will miss her daily presence at Wilbur McMahon School. Deb plans to spend time with her granddaughter, Parker, and we congratulate her wholeheartedly on her most deserved retirement. We love you, Deb Gay, if you're watching. This is being taped. Josh knows, her son knows that we're on, and vetting her right now, and we will do it obviously in person when we can. And so we will miss you, Deb, if you're watching this now or later.
Yeah, so that's an understatement that we're going to miss Mrs. Gay. She'll be missed for sure.
She's a love
Um,
bug, a love bug.
Yeah, back to that hybrid learning, what you were saying, it's been pretty impressive what Wilbur's done
Absolutely.
with the teachers and the administration. Some other schools really struggled, and the teachers here and the administration, you guys really did a great job, and hopefully nobody forgets that. That was pretty good, pretty impressive. All
Well,
right.
come on site and we will show you firsthand. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Today was National School Nurse Day, and so we did celebrate our superstar school nurse, Jean Dunn, who is just amazing. She also basically runs the ER on weekends at a Newport hospital, and she is a phenom. She is a force of nature in school. And so tacking onto that, Mrs. Whip today engaged in a very jolly active subterfuge under the guise of a evacuation drill. We were all called to the soccer field today, the entire complement of the building, all the students, staff, you name it, anyone else who was visiting, vendor, whoever, everyone was out there. And we did get one of our evacuation drills required by RIDE over and done with, but we also had flowers and a nice testimonial for Mrs. Dunn, and also for our district teacher of the year. Our district teacher of the year is none other than Mary Elizabeth Miller. Now, we are a school and a district in one. It is a district designation. And so each year, teachers across the state represent their individual school districts as district teachers of the year. And they serve as a liaison between the district and the Rhode Island Department of Education to share information about state initiatives, attend full and half-day professional learning sessions focused on leadership and collaboration, etc., with other DTOIs across the state. They also have a Bring Your Superintendent to a District Teacher of the Year breakfast. This year it was virtual. That's fine. I still enjoyed myself. And and the district teachers of the year for 2021 will have an opportunity to apply to represent all Rhode Island educators as the 2023 state teacher of the year. And so this fall, usually at Waterfire, all of these district teachers of the year, including Mary Elizabeth Miller, will be feted in Providence. It's an incredible night. It was obviously canceled last fall. Not sure what's going to happen this fall, but when something does occur, I will reach out and share. And I just want to read a little bit of the pretty long and extensive nomination sheet that was prepared on Mary Elizabeth Miller's behalf. Throughout the pandemic, Mrs. Miller has patiently and methodically counseled students, their parents, and staff members, and worked with them to pinpoint issues causing distress, and then developing plans to help them cope and overcome issues that are hindering their progress. No 2 days are alike for Mrs. Miller. This is an understatement. Providing one-on-one sessions with struggling students, hosting breakout lunch discussion groups for children to improve their interactions with peers, assisting families with domestic issues, providing counseling resources to those who inquire, or assisting 8th graders in course selections as they prepare for high school. She is often seen popping into classrooms. As a matter of fact, she was in the kindergarten classroom that I popped into today. Walking at a fast clip through the hallways to get to her next appointment, and attending countless meetings to advocate for what's best for each student. Mrs. Miller brings with her years of experience gained at Newport County Regional Special Education, where she provided services to Middletown students at the elementary and middle school grade levels, as well as through her role as case manager, outpatient therapist, clinical social worker in both hospital and behavioral program settings. And this testimonial goes on and on and on. And it closes with, it's for these reasons and so many more that we have selected Mrs. Miller as our Wilbur McMahon School Teacher of the Year / Rhode Island Department of Education District Teacher of the Year. We are grateful for all she does for not only the students and their families, but for the staff as well. Congratulations, Mrs. Miller. Mary Elizabeth, come on. unclick. We need to see you on video so that we can give you a big,
Wow.
I can't control my video. I can only control my mic. That's why you don't see me. Oh, okay. I think John
oh my
just.
gosh, I just made my new puppy bark with my whistle.
The whistle was cool. That's cool. Congratulations, Mary Elizabeth. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, you talked about three people, Deb Gay and Mrs. Dunn and Mary Elizabeth. I mean, really three outstanding people that
Oh my gosh.
that the school should really appreciate. I mean, real all-stars, all three.
I don't bring this down for anybody.
But we knew that when we hired you, Mary Elizabeth. So I'm really not surprised.
Amazing.
So maybe something bigger next year for you then, huh?
And I'm really going to push Ms. Miller to,
She needs to be pushed even higher.
she needs to be pushed to apply for the 2023 state, the Rhode Island Department of Education
Yeah, there you go.
Teacher of the Year for 2023. I will be relentless.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
We're lucky to have you.
Thank you. I love being here.
All right, so we can
That's all I
keep
got.
we can keep all this congratulations and partying going with the finance director on finance. Let's try to keep it up high.
Yeah, we'll keep this upbeat. We have the financials for the 10 months ending April 30th, 21. We are still projecting a small deficit, somewhere around a little over 15,000. As we get into the last couple of months of the year, we'll start looking at some of these expenses where we have been using the full budgeted amount as a projection. And as we wind down the year, if we're not going to be spending that money, we'll obviously refine that projection. So I'm hoping that we can probably move much closer to a break even for the FY21 year at this point in time. There have been really no significant changes in the projection from last month's report. We're still down on the revenues. Our salaries are up, as we can see from the increase in the substitutes expenses, and our purchased other services, which has a significant fluctuation. We're down on our Portsmouth High School tuition and our special education out of district tuition are both down for budget, and that's offset a little bit by an increase in our transportation costs. So at this point in time, I don't see anything major that's going to create any issues for the 6/30/21 year end at this point, but we'll refine the projection over the next couple of months. So I'll entertain any questions that anybody may have.
Yeah, Patrick, I got one question for John, please.
Sorry, Mike, I was muted. Sure, go ahead.
Sure. John, just a question on the tuition that we have for the students, the projected tuition rate, or however you want to say that, 6 students, 9 students, whatever it may be. Going forward, what are we required to put that into our, can we understate that, or does that have to be, how does that work, please? As far as, so we're not.
There's really no restriction on that revenue. So that revenue goes into a general operating fund. To the extent that we would generate a surplus for the year, the school committee certainly can take that surplus and allocate it to some future need and set it aside as a reserve. It still has to be reported as a surplus in the general operating fund, but you can set some of those funds aside. We've done that in the past for capital. We have, in that particular case, we transferred it to a separate fund for the capital, but we could allocate a fund balance and take the fund balance that's remaining and allocate it to some future use that the school committee could reserve those funds for. But that revenue from tuition from outside students would go into our general operating fund.
Okay, so I mean, we could potentially, if we knew that we were going to have 6 students, say, potentially, and we could only budget for 4 of those, so that we're not, 4 at whatever the rate may be. It's now 6,000, but instead of basically putting all our eggs in one basket and saying, yep, we're going to definitely get 8 or 7 students, and then in the position that we're in right now, we didn't get what we actually were budgeted for.
Well, certainly this year was an unusual year. I think that without the pandemic, I think we probably would have had what we had thought we were going to be budgeting. And I think next year, the projection that we have in there, I forget, Laurie, we have 7 or 8 for next year. And it looks like we should be on target for that for FY22.
I agree, and I think Sonia would agree as well.
And that's great. I mean, but I don't know. It's just a different point of view. It's just looking at it differently, saying that we don't we don't count on every student as a tuition to cover our budget. Anything.
No, I understand. And it's probably a good way to at least put some sort of reserve on there in case other expenses, or if we generate some surplus, we then can set that money aside. That's a good point. It's probably something we should look at in next year's the FY23 budget when we look at it. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, committee reports. Policy Subcommittee. Hannah Ayotte. Would you like to talk about policy, or would you like to wait for action items?
I think I can do it now. There's not really much for the action
Sure,
item
go ahead.
to discuss. So we met on May 6th and we tested out a hybrid version of meeting. And it went all right. There were some audio issues, but we've since discussed how to fix that in hopes of coming back in person, which we'll talk about later. But for the policy subcommittee, we made the suggested changes to the emergency meetings section of Article 2, Section 2, about making sure we notify all committee members ahead of an emergency meeting to the best of our ability. So that change was made. And then as part of our meeting, we were discussing the dress code with a group of 8th grade students. It was a very productive meeting. We looked over changes that were proposed by Polly and Superintendent Mitchell. And it went really well, and we'll discuss that more as the dress code comes to full committee. But overall, I think it's really important that we continue to encourage our students to speak with us on the things that directly affect their educational experience. And was really happy that Mrs. Whip included those students at our meeting. So thank you for that, Principal Whip.
And I just want to thank you and Polly for making the arrangements to have that meeting during the day. The children really felt, the girls were so empowered by being able to share with you all. So thank you.
Of course, I was really excited to meet them and discuss that with them. Like that's something I would have wanted to do when I was an 8th grade student. So I was really happy we were able to do that. I think that's it, Patrick. Thank you.
That's pretty impressive hearing that, and that's pretty good stuff there. Portsmouth School Committee Liaison Report. Rita.
So, Mr. Chair, you were at last night's meeting also. Would you like to comment on anything you heard?
I was not at the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw your, okay, I stand corrected. So at the meeting, Portsmouth has been awarded the Green Ribbon Award for some environmental subjects they've been working on and a program they've worked on. So that's a nice national recognition. They're also very proud of standing by U.S. News and World Report just announced that they're the 4th highest ranking high school out of the 105 in Rhode Island. We got an update from the Portsmouth Prevention Coalition, and that was they had conducted a survey, so it was pretty comprehensive. They got more responses than they had in the past, so it was good information. They talked about the dates and so forth for the end of year activities. They gave a legislative report, and then they voted on the Little Compton contract. And it passed, our 1-year extension passed, if you had not heard. A vote of 5-2. That's the update.
Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome.
6.3 Town Recreation Committee Liaison Report. There's nothing to report at this time. And Wellness Committee, Rita.
Yes, we had a lovely meeting yesterday, May 11th. Almost everyone was in attendance, but we got a great update on COVID testing and most importantly, vaccinations. There's a clinic planned for students age 12 and above on May 21st. The date still stands, correct, Lori? 21st, yeah. So we'll be vaccinating, details to come. But any student 12 and above with parental consent. There were wonderful opportunities in the Healthy Kids newsletter. So we're looking at the possibility of getting a grant for a farm to school project. There's the campaign that might be implemented in some of the classrooms. And we're looking at potentially a bike safety program for the kids by the end of the year. And as far as Chartwell's and school, still, providing free meals, and it's going well. Lots of meals being presented, and no complaints about the food either. So it was a very good meeting.
That's
another high performing committee, the Wellness Committee. If no one knows, really great job you do there, Rita. Okay, discussion items. Discussion about the high school request for proposal process. Mike Rocha, I think this might be landed on the agenda from you. Am I right? Is that my recollection?
That's correct.
Okay, you want to talk about that?
Yes, so the discussion on this was as far as if, and this came up last week, if Portsmouth was to accept our proposal, what would be the next step on this as far as going out for the RFP? And it's been tossed around as far as doing this in the fall. And we just wanted to, I was looking to firm this up a little bit more so that we know exactly what course of action that we're going to take, so that, is it going to be October? Is it going to be November? One of my concerns, if you would, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think you said it's 60 to 90 days to do the whole process for the RFP. Budget season, I believe you said, starts in December, and we have to have it by the end of February. I'm just thinking that it would be nice if we knew where we stood with this prior to us submitting our budget to the town. So that's why I bring that up now. I know it's a little ways out, but I'd rather have something going into the summer where we can say, look, come October or come September, we need to start going out for this. And that's why I asked Patrick to add this. So any feedback?
I think, Mike, practically speaking, that we have to see how these COVID protocols go. If they keep easing, we getting back to normal, because I really, and I've been preaching this for a long time, want to honor what we've done here in Little Compton the past 50 years, and have all the stakeholders and be able to participate. And I think now that Portsmouth and ourselves have negotiated a 1-year extension, that gives us time to do that if, God forbid, the pandemic gets worse or whatever. That's why we did this, so we would have that time. But putting that aside, it does look like the pandemic is getting over, or getting better, or whatever, and we are going to be able to accelerate this. So let's talk about that good news, that the pandemic is going to ease. We're going to be able to meet inside. And so, not promising that's going to happen, but let's just go down that one path. So if that was to happen, John McNamee, and everything is continuing to go well with the COVID, how do you see this playing out in that scenario, the process, the RFP process?
So the rough timeline would be to have the RFP issued by 10/15/21. I'm assuming that we'll probably have 3 responses. We'll probably be talking about Tiverton, Middletown, and Portsmouth. Give them 30 days to put their responses together. In the meantime, the superintendent would put her committee together to review and rate the responses in accordance with the rubric that she's prepared. And that would take place. So the responses would come in by, let's say, November 15th. The review period would take 11/15 to 12/15. And then what we would like to do probably is then have a meeting where the public could attend, where we'll have the finalists, if not all 3, maybe 2 that would come in and do the presentation and get the public input at that meeting. At which point, then the school committee could make their selection by probably that first meeting in February, as a rough timeline. Now, if the pandemic and we can't meet and we want to push that, obviously the 1 year gives us some time. We can put an alternate schedule for the spring, but as Mike indicates, we do have the potential that even though we're into a 11th year with Portsmouth, if they were to be awarded the contract, I'm sure that we could probably renegotiate that particular year and build it into a 10-year contract that we would put together for the for the high school students for Portsmouth. Now, if another district is selected, we are still committed to that 11th year with Portsmouth. So we would then be looking at 6/30/23 fiscal year, the start of that. So 7/1/23, let's say, would be the start of any new contract for the high school students with the new awardee. So we have some options, but I think at this point in time, I would agree probably the sooner we can do it, the better. And I think that the fall, early winter timeframe would probably work out. I don't know, Laurie, if you've got any other thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, the good news is we have that 1 year extension if we,
right,
if there's a new variant, if not, if we don't reach herd immunity. So we do have that wiggle room, and I know I'm breathing easier because of it, because stakeholder engagement and involvement and voice is essential in this process. This school committee, this superintendent, this business manager, we all need to get this right. And so, getting that big tent, getting everyone under it, getting everyone engaged is the best way forward. I'm hopeful that we can do a fall timeline, and everything's ready to go. So I understand Mike's concerns. I also see the opportunity if Portsmouth wins, this bid, then we could probably fold in that 11th year. That would be the first year of a multi-year, and maybe renegotiate some pieces down, and then we could build in that that increase over the course of the first few and not really feel it as much. So I echo what you just said, John, that we can do mid to late fall. We can wrap it up by February or so. If not, we have some breathing space. If it spills into the summer of 2022, we still have another year. So thank goodness we have the extension. It gives us time. It gives the community, you know, some time to get involved, get engaged, and we'll be likely back meeting in person. We won't be at full capacity in terms of the public coming to our meetings, but maybe close to it. And maybe by the time the high schools are ready to come on site and, you know, do their thing, show us what they've got, we'll be able to do it with everyone who wants to participate, everyone who wants to attend and be involved. So like I said, we want to get this right. And this gives us some breathing space, thank goodness. You know, there was that 5-2 vote last night. I thought it would be 4-3, but or 5-2. I told you that, Rita. Yeah, it gives us some space. But I like where you're going with this, Mike, in that the sooner the better. But I think we have to wait a bit, find out what happens June 30th, if some of these executive orders will sunset or if they'll be renewed in terms of public gatherings and masks and municipal, you know, the open meetings laws and so on and so forth. If there'll be, you know, we'll have these opportunities for hybrid meetings or full, we don't know where we are there in that space. So hopefully in the fall, we'll be on firm footing somehow.
So if I could just talk this out, just to make sure that I understand this correctly. So that's plan A, if you would, if in a perfect world that we get this to go out in October 10th for John's timeline, if you would say. Right now, and Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that we don't have to do, we're extended through June 23 as of right now. So we're not up against that 1 year notice deadline, if you would. So that being said, if we didn't go out for the RFP in the fall, we could potentially do it in the year of 2022, right? And still have it within our budget for that February of 23, so that we could submit that going forward. Am I correct in saying this?
I follow that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're not so much under the pressure to actually have it done by this fall, but sooner the better. But
The other thing under the state procurement regulations is that once you award the bid, you can then negotiate with that bidder so that you're not accepting the bid that's presented. So once the bid is awarded, you can then negotiate. In the event that all the bids come up high and above what we might have allocated in our budget, we can reject all the bids and go out again, or we can give all the bidders an opportunity to rebid it.
so
And that's in the statute, in the state procurement statute. So there is some flexibility. I don't think we would do the rebidding, but I think that once we award the bid, we'd be in a position that if we're going to make it a 10-year contract, we could probably negotiate some better terms on a 10-year contract than we certainly could on a 1-year extension.
right.
So
So that being said, hypothetically, if that situation does happen, and these numbers come back higher than we anticipate, that would be one reason for us not to wait longer if we had to either rebid it or talk to whoever does bid to see if we can get our numbers to come back down lower. So I guess that would be one of our cons as far as waiting too long, or getting too comfortable and saying, look, we have all next year to do this. So if something goes wrong and it's a 60-day process or a 90-day process to go through that, and you have to rebid that all out, that's going to work against us. And again, if I'm wrong on that, please correct me. But
And you're right, this, the sooner the better. However, we want it to be optimal for the community. So
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, we have just so many unknowns at this point. I hope by the fall, like I said, that we're on firmer footing when it comes to just what we can do in terms of in-person meetings.
And that's fine. So I guess I would ask that if hypothetically in a perfect world, we don't have the restrictions that we have right now, that we go forward with our timeline in October, say, if we make that work, then that's great. If we can't, then I just caution as far as us waiting too long in 2022 to actually take care of this. That's all.
We can breathe though, so we do have a couple of years, but hopefully within a year, we can land this plane. But we don't know. I wish I did. No, don't know.
Okay.
Alrighty. Any other, we go with that, right, for the second? So that's a good segue into 7.2, discussion about the implementation of a hybrid in-person option for future school committee meetings. So it's my understanding there's been some discussion about this between Jonathan and Hannah, Mariah, Carolyn, I don't know who else. So whoever wants to start the conversation, go ahead.
I can give a little background. Over the past couple days, John Gabriel and Mariah and I have been discussing different options that we have to bring those who participate in school committee meetings back to an in-person modality. Mariah sent out a type of poll to everyone who is a regular participant in these meetings to kind of gauge what everyone, how everyone was feeling about it. And it looks like based off of those responses, we would be doing some sort of hybrid in-person and virtual meeting to get started with, to kind of phase everything back into a normal pre-COVID type meeting. Those who would be in person would be the 5 elected school committee members, our admin, superintendent, and principal, and John Gabriel to help us with the IT stuff. And then all other participants, as well as the audience, would remain virtual for the time being until directed otherwise, or until it becomes safer to have a large public gathering again. As part of other updates, and I'll let John give you a little more background on this, but just to kind of summarize, there are different conference systems that we could use that would enable us to all meet safely in a socially distant manner while wearing masks. That would allow us to conduct a meeting in person between those 8 people as early as the June 9th meeting. And then I'll let John talk a little more about the.
So if I could just, if I could steal your thunder, John, real quickly. One, and the superintendent already referenced this, that the governor gave an executive order about these meetings we have to have. And June 30th, when the new governor is going to give his new guidance. So that's number one. And number two, I don't see Roger Lord here. I don't know if he's here or not, but I don't think Roger Lord's going to be taping meetings for the rest of his life. And we can't be relying on Roger to do that. He's not here tonight. So I think that, and I hadn't thought of this until I talked with Jonathan today, actually, that we need to tape our meetings ourselves and get them up on YouTube.
Oh,
Or,
Patrick,
yeah. Huh? Am I stealing your thunder?
not mine.
But I think that we should already have these, that people that want to see these meetings should be able to either, when we don't have this pandemic, should be able to just jump on YouTube and watch them live, or watch them recorded on YouTube the next day. So those were the two things I wanted to say. So there you go.
I'm taking my thunder back then. So no, like everybody mentioned in some capacity here, we won't really know for sure what the Secretary of State is going to do until June 30th. So that may change things a little bit. We might have less restrictions or some hybrid of it where we're expected to meet, but maybe public not come in. We really just don't know yet. That being said, we definitely want to have some kind of a system that's easy to live stream that out to accommodate any of those reasons, but I think it just makes sense for the future. It's something that's very common in most school districts and in most town meetings now, that you maintain an archive of all that online and everything. And we have been doing that for at least 5 or 6 years. I think of video footage is available if you go to the website now. And Roger does an awesome job, but we should also have this capacity in-house at some point. So what we were thinking, and I'll just pull up really quick, I had a little thing just to give you an idea of where we're at. This is not necessarily what we would be buying. It's just a really good example of something that we could get to do the job properly, if everybody can see that. It's a pretty basic system that has a nice camera on it, one that's capable of automatically, if we put it at the front of the room, automatically panning and zooming around to make sure it's capturing the whole school committee, or when an individual talks, it can zoom in on them and you make sure you know who's talking if you're remotely participating in the meeting. It doesn't give you that confusion of seeing everybody on the screen in a mask at the same time and not being really sure. It also gives you audio that comes from the same place that you would be viewing any remote participants from if we had the public there, or if we had a student presenting, say. So you can see there's that camera, there's a couple speakers on the side there. And then one of the keys is actually these little pods in the middle, if you can see those. Those are dedicated microphones, very similar to what Roger had when he was taping the meetings in person. They would basically line the tables so that we could capture the audio directly. And I mean, give or take a little bit, the size of the meeting, that kind of thing, we get maybe 5 of those and line them around the room. So no matter who's there, you can always hear everybody very clearly. Now, I guess the biggest question in all this is what the goal of that is, so to speak. We won't know for sure what we can do until June 30th, but it would definitely be nice, I'm sure a lot of people would feel similar, to be back in the same room again. It would feel a little bit more maybe like a regular meeting. But are we looking for the ability, which I would say is always important, but do we want more the ability to bring the public into the meeting and make them feel like they are here in the room with us? And if so, a system like this would be very good at doing so. Or is it really just more about transparency? Obviously, like I said, we've been recording and everything like that, but a system like this makes it very easy to push a single button at the start of the meeting, and that meeting is now being recorded. It's being live streamed on YouTube. So even if, depending on where the public is, maybe that's just an alternative option for them if they want to view it while it's happening. But then it also gets saved there forever, so anybody can go back and review, like everybody was saying there. So yeah, I mean, I think regardless, it's pretty clear we need some system. Now, a system like this is definitely, there are 10 major manufacturers that make similar products. So we're actually doing a little bit of a review and getting bids on those, and we'll be talking about that as soon as more of those come in. But a system like this would really make it very seamless for anybody that is remotely participating. Those microphones all work in unison to make sure, regardless of how far you're sitting away from them, or whether or not you have a mask on, you'll be heard very clearly, as well as make it more of like a natural conversation if we were to bring somebody in. If there's conversation among the committee, it's like you're sitting right there almost next to those people, even though you're on Zoom or YouTube or whatever it happens to be. And if it's two-way dialogue, it would be a very back and forth, face to face type of thing, much more so than what you might see when everybody's on their own screen on a separate computer, that kind of thing. So I'd say that's just a big consideration. Do we want to just bring people back into the same room again? Are we trying to make it a better experience for everybody? What is the ultimate end goal there? I guess maybe some combination of the above, but we'll definitely know more once we get some prices back, once we see a little bit more specifics as to what the options are. But it's definitely a good thing to talk about now as well.
Absolutely. And Jonathan, if you remember, you did a really good job in the fall. We did a hybrid.
Anybody want to respond to that?
Ooh, whoops. We did a
right,
hybrid
so
in
how
the
much?
fall. Oh, Patrick?
Can you hear Lori?
I can't hear Lori, no.
Oh, are you turned down?
Oh, I am turned. I'm sorry, I don't have my volume on.
She was started.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Just as
My volume's on.
really quick then
My
before
volume's
that.
on.
That's
Well,
okay.
is it? We'll
I'm
make sure.
usually
Oh,
loud.
am I on mute?
I think you're on mute. Hi. Hello?
Oh my God. Oh, that's not.
That's your brightness.
That's my brain. I'm on mute.
Jonathan,
There we go.
I'm on mute.
Jonathan,
Oh God, I'm going back on mute. Bye bye.
it's all good. Jonathan, you facilitated a hybrid meeting in the fall, our town hall. Okay, and that, we just didn't have the right equipment, if you remember. We were taking questions, I was taking questions from parents, from the community. And so Patrick, Carolyn, you and I were in the media center, and the rest of the school committee was at home, and stakeholders who tuned in were at home. And you know, we have the best of intentions, and it just didn't work. But this system that you're proposing sounds like it's a really good option.
Definitely. And we didn't really know what we were in for or how long a period of time. We kind of used the equipment we had on hand and have always had. We kind of repeated the same thing for the policy committee meeting last week too, and it wasn't an ideal experience. It's doable, but it's not very pleasant. It feels almost more like you're watching like a security camera feed of other people. It's very, yeah. So I definitely think having the proper equipment to do this will not only make it a really high quality experience for the people in the room, the people at home, but it will also just make everything that much easier as far as setup and maintenance and everything else goes. To answer Patrick's question, depending on the system we go with, the kind of preliminary pricing, the research I've done on mine, it looks like they start at around $1,000 to $1,500 for the whole package. If you want the higher quality camera, a few extra add-ons, maybe additional mic pods, you may be spending upwards of like the $2,500 to $3,000 range in that case. And it can go up even higher than then, depending on if we want to get really fancy, we could install the microphones permanently in the ceiling so they never have to be moved ever again, that sort of thing. But at least for now, if we can get a basic system and just set it up even somewhat temporarily, we'll be in much better shape for all of those things.
Can I just follow up with that?
Sure, go ahead.
Jonathan, one of my concerns is that when I sit there and I watch the Portsmouth School Committee meetings, it feels like that the camera is like 100 feet away from the actual people that are sitting there talking. So from my experience, I think that's terrible. Is this
No,
like,
I definitely agree.
is
That
this
is
like-
part of the luxury of one of these types of cameras. It has a really strong optical zoom, and the microphones themselves can actually inform the camera who's talking. So while you might see the whole committee when it's a general discussion or something like that, when a single person talks, it will zoom directly in on them. So it would be much more like what you're seeing right now.
And to add to that as well, Mike, something we discussed was the setup of the room that we would all use, and it would be very different for us in our space than the Portsmouth School Committee, how they're setting themselves up right now. If we were in the library, we'd be able to all be in a like semicircle U shape, which would probably also make it very similar to what recorded meetings from pre-COVID times look like to the viewer at home.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing is too, is that the meetings and are bounced back and forth between the common area and the media center. So I guess, and I'm not sure what the criteria has been for that in the past, if it's because there's AC in the media center and there's none in the common area, or how that would work. But what's the advantage of us jumping back to, for us to go sit in a room right now and everybody still watches through the computer until we know what's going to happen on June 30th?
Personally, what my feeling on it in meeting in person is that our teachers, our staff, and our students have all been in person the majority of this year, pre-vaccines. As Superintendent Mitchell and Principal Whip report to us every month, there have been thankfully very minimal COVID cases, and we've been able to successfully operate school as normally as possible. I think at this point, for elected members, elected public officials to still be at home, I think that sends a bad message to the teachers, the staff, and the students that we have in person every single day. I think it's time that we join them in returning to some sort of normal COVID operation. And that's just my personal viewpoint, but I think it's very doable, and it can be very safe for our personal health and safety, as well as beneficial to the community. I mean, Zooms can kind of be awkward, I think, especially for you and I as new members as well, like to get a handle on, to really read the room. It's kind of hard to do over Zoom. You're cutting each other off. There's audio problems with that. So I think that it's time that we move towards some sort of hybrid model.
And just to add a little to your other point there, we can definitely make it so regardless of where we do the meetings, the solution is easy enough to set up and portable enough that if that is the goal, to make sure we can bounce between spaces, that's not an issue to do at will either. But no, I think there is a little something that extra that it would add to have everybody back. It would be a much better just experience to record, to broadcast out to the public. That said, we still don't know exactly what we'll be able to do after the June meeting. So I don't know if it's worth trying to push it for the very next meeting. Maybe it would be good as a trial of sorts, or maybe we hold off until after. That's a decision, I suppose, for somebody else to make. But if we wait for the following month, at least we'll know for sure if we have the ability to do that, if the public can come in, if they're going to be required to stay home and participate remotely. So we might be better off if we defer a little bit until we have some of those answers too. But we at some point we'll need to take that step regardless.
Jonathan, thank you for doing the work and investigating the technology, and Hannah for taking the lead on trying to help us get back to something that is normal. But I have to agree that it may take you a little time to find just the right system at just the right price. And I would feel much more comfortable having the governor's statement at the end of June. Personally, I'm very happy to come back. I also like to feel that I'm around those who are vaccinated, and I'm not sure how to, address that issue. I'm happy to go inside a building when I know that others around me are vaccinated. And we certainly are going to wear masks for a while indoors. So I'd be willing to suggest that we wait until the end of June. Not voting on this, but that's my thought. But I'm looking forward to getting back, and thank you for this good work.
I'll be calling the governor to make sure that if he issues an executive order, that he allows us to have, business jackets and shirts, but we can still wear jeans and sweatpants when we're in person, and
Thank you.
sneakers and slippers. Just not that I'm doing that, but I might lobby the governor.
So I see what Portsmouth does, and I don't have Anderson on the call here today. John McNamee, what is Lincoln doing?
We're The town has actually got a virtual meeting set up. I'm not sure exactly. I can find out what kind of a system that they use, but they do have a hybrid system set up at this point in time. The school department is still looking at it. Quite frankly, I think we probably get more attendance in the virtual meetings than we did when we were in person. And we would tape all our meetings, and we'd stream them live, and you might have one or two people show up, but on the Zoom, we're getting many more people to participate, which I think is a positive thing. But I think in all this, we have to just keep in mind the Open Meetings Act. So this is really for the public to be able to participate in these meetings. So I think it's a key feature having the hybrid and having the public being able to participate, because I think we do have much more participation by the public, or at least I'm seeing it at the meetings in Lincoln.
Are the Lincoln School Committee members meeting at the school?
No, it's all virtual.
Do you have any other information about any other school committees in Rhode Island?
No, just little Compton.
You got to broaden your area. You got to broaden.
Yeah, I know.
Something for next meeting. Hannah, I've been meeting for a year in school. I have no problem coming in. I'm vaccinated now.
And that was the majority feeling, I think, among at least the elected members of the committee, is that as long as everyone's vaccinated, which I believe all of us are, we're missing one tonight, but based on the responses and everything, I think all of us, the 5 of us, are vaccinated. I'm not sure about Superintendent Mitchell or Principal Whip and others, and you don't have to tell us that information necessarily, but I think that it would be safe to go ahead with a hybrid meeting when we have the technology ready.
So do we want to put on this technology for a vote next meeting? You get enough time to come up with something?
Yeah, we should be able to do it.
Mr. Mack, do we have a place to put our hands on the money in the budget?
Well, we may be able to try to utilize some of the ESSER funding for that, because it is, pandemic related. So we might be able to utilize those funds. We just don't know. The application was supposed to be out this week for the ESSER 2 money, but we haven't seen it yet. And we've got 64,000 coming in. A bunch of that has to be used for summer learning. And then we have probably another 134,000 in ESSER 3 funds that we at this point don't know exactly what we could use that for. But I think if we can justify, which I think we can, this is more pandemic related, then I think we should be able to find those funds.
So let's get it on the agenda for next month. Hannah, does that sound like something we can do?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'll let you guys keep collaborating though, and we can put it on the agenda and also keep this on the agenda soon. Talk about it some more.
So this, Patrick, just to clarify, this will be a two-way audio, or maybe Jonathan needs to answer this, but this will be a two-way audio for the viewers at home to be able to actually speak to us.
Yes, so there would be a screen at the front of the room central to everybody. They would be able to hear us really well because the microphone pod's on the table. They can see us from that view, and vice versa. Anybody that's tapping in will come out of those speakers from the system. If they have video on, we'll be able to see them kind of at the front of the room as well. It'll almost be if that U table was a full circle and they were sitting at the opposite side, so to speak. So yeah, none of that should be an issue, definitely. Again, depending on what's possible. If open meetings law says the public can't participate remotely at that point, it would still be a much more seamless way and higher quality way to record the meetings and publish those online, regardless, for the future. I guess some of that just depends on where we are and how we're doing it.
So just say hypothetically, we go through a system like this and they are able to communicate, how would they physically communicate with us back to?
Um, it could be the same way we're doing it now, just as a Zoom call or something like that. These kind of systems hook into any meeting web conferencing system, pretty much that's out there.
Okay. I'm good, thank you.
Alrighty. So 8 is public input on agenda items and topics for future agendas. Anyone? Just raise your hand. If anyone has anything later, just raise your hand. 9.1, consider, discuss, and vote to amend the school committee bylaws as a second read. This goes to Hannah Ayat.
So do you need a motion?
I need an explanation.
You have a motion.
I'm going to go with an explanation first.
Don't we need a motion to just start the discussion though?
No, you can discuss it. You can discuss it now.
Okay,
You can,
well, like
you can explain it right now.
okay.
Then we can discuss it.
Sure. Like I said in the policy subcommittee report, the only change that we've made from last month to this month is that we just added wording suggested by Mr. Anderson in Article 2, Section 2, regarding emergency meetings. I think it says specifically there will be an effort made to notify all school committee members of said emergency meeting.
Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Any discussion? Not seeing any. Vote. Do I have discussion? Mike, do you have a discussion?
Not on this one, no.
All right. Vote via roll call, please, Mariah.
Holly Allen, absent. Hannah Ayat,
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
Aye.
Rita Kenahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. So that passes unanimously. Thank you, Hannah. 9.2, consider, discuss, a vote to amend the transgender policy. This is also a second read and will be a vote. Would you like to explain this one? Hannah.
There hasn't been any updating to this one since the first read last month. Basically, we just went through and updated the language, some definitions and things that we've recently learned as we begin to learn more about the needs of the LGBTQ plus community in our district. So I think we've made a lot of positive changes to protect those who may identify or express themselves differently. So really, I think we're good with this as far as changes.
Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this one?
It's very comprehensive, and I thank you for all your good, solid work on it, Hannah.
Any other discussion or comment?
Yeah, Patrick. I got a
Yep, go ahead,
question.
Mike.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have a harassment and bullying policy in place, correct?
Yes.
So why are we adding it again to this policy?
That is just a reiteration of the policy that you're mentioning, just so that it is in both places. I don't think that reiterating it in more spots is harmful at all. And it ties it specifically to gender identity and expression as opposed to just overall harassment and bullying.
So I kind of look at this and I see the first two paragraphs pertaining to harassment and bullying, and the paragraph 3 and 4 basically instructing the superintendent to what they're supposed to provide for training, which 3 and 4 I have no issues with. Do we do this already? We have harassment and bullying or placed in multiple policies throughout everywhere. I mean, shouldn't we just keep it as there's a harassment and bullying policy in one place and that's where we refer to it, so that we're not tracing this everywhere, so that one thing gets changed, it doesn't get changed, and say it didn't get changed in this policy. So now we have a conflict of it's in two different locations, potentially at two different ratings. So if the harassment bullying policy gets changed, say hypothetically, in the main policy, and this doesn't get changed, what takes precedent at that point?
I'm not sure if maybe Superintendent Mitchell would be able to provide some clarification on that, but as far as what we did in drafting this policy, there are many other school districts that include a section like this within their gender identity and expression policies. And it's the exact same language as our separate, I think it says it right there, district
Policy one.
policy 6001.
Mhm.
So if that were to be changed, and I believe that's actually just a statewide policy that we've adopted anyway. So if that changes, we will automatically make the change to the policy as well to be in accordance.
If I could just add something before you go, Dr. Mitchell. Mike, I think just from being on the committee for so long that we've gone through policies and we found duplication and we have taken them out. And so I understand that point. And I think if you have a vibrant, really high level policy committee, you're not going to have different language in different parts of our policies. And we're coming off 4 years of scrubbing these policies with other members that have done an outstanding job, probably the best of anyone has done. I don't know, but really impressive. So our policies are really good. And I think with Hannah and Polly, I feel secure that they're not going to omit or change something and not find it somewhere else. But when we started this endeavor 4 years ago, we found a lot of duplication, and we fixed it. And I say we, the policy committee, and we voted it. So yeah, it is an issue, the duplication, but I feel pretty good with the people on the policy committee that are going to be able to stay on top of it.
And to add to that, Patrick, this is one, and we discussed this at our subcommittee meeting, that this is a policy that is going to continuously change as we learn more about this community of students and employees that we'll have in our district. So this is a policy that's going to continuously come up. So we will be almost forced to reassess that section of it as well. Superintendent Mitchell.
Thanks. Mike, that's a fair point. We don't see it as duplication. It's a reference to an existing policy that is state law, based on state law. And the good news is board docs. Board docs gives us the ability to do word searches, phrase searches, so we can definitely get in there and scrub quite easily and quickly. But this is more reinforcement, reference. And as Hannah said, the original transgender policy was only 3 years old, and already the language around gender identity, sexuality changed so much. It was an exponential explosion of new terms and more specificity as the LGBTQ plus community becomes firmly supported, everything affirmed, and the language is finally catching up to the equitable, inclusive nature of our communities and our systems. And so we're incorporating all of that language in. We never want language that excludes, we want language that includes, but it is changing as the community gets more support, more advocates, more allies, and they become integrated into all of our systems as leaders, as valued members. And so our small school is included in all of that. And so we have stakeholders pushing our system and broadening our vocabularies, our language, our awareness. And it has really been an eye-opener the past year at Wilbur McMahon. And this policy will definitely support, affirm every single student, every single staff member, every single parent, guardian, and relative and community member. So, and it'll change, there's no doubt. Language changes as systems change.
And I understand what you're saying, and I'm not questioning that, and I'm not questioning, Hannah, what you did for work. My point being is that we're not always going to always be here. There's going to be a different group of people that come in here. So a simple line item could have been stated in here that to refer to the harassment and bullying policy that we have, so that it's in one spot, so that it's not redundant, and so there isn't duplications that Patrick referred to that they found a long time ago in the 4 years. So I don't understand. I don't know.
Why can't we flag our policies that are in different places that direct it that, you know, it's in another place too?
There's a cross-reference feature in board docs. Mariah just reminded me, thank you for the text, Mariah. And so, you know, that was one of the reasons why we shifted to board docs 2 years ago, came before this committee and asked for the funding for this very reason. We had all these discrete pieces out there, and this brings our policy into one centralized body of work. And, you know, this committee abides by policy governance. Policy is everything, and policy is language, and language is our calling card and as a system. So Word docs gives us the ability to update, cross-reference, and, you know, push out redundancy. But this is not redundancy. This is a reference, and this is a reinforcement of statute. As a matter of fact, I believe on Monday at PD, the attorney will be talking to staff members once again about being mandated reporters around issues of hate speech, sexual harassment, et cetera, et cetera. So we are constantly looking at policy 6001 and the statute and finding ways to integrate it and into our PD. And we're doing that Monday.
And I don't know if this will help too, Mike. The first two paragraphs, the first one itself is kind of basically just like a mission statement, if you will. That's really what it aligns with, more so than specifically handling harassment and bullying. And then that second paragraph, all it really does is say that students, staff who has the responsibility of reporting bullying, it doesn't go into the procedures of handling that case of bullying, or you would then go refer to that 6001 policy.
Okay, I just, that's fine. I just think it should be all in
Fair point.
one location. The only other point that I have on this is the last page. It's page 4, where it says enforcement of the dress code more strictly, that portion.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of look at that and say to myself that the teachers, the staff, everybody's supposed to be treating everybody equally. Is the way that I look at it, regardless of what that person's position is or whatever the. So to put it in here is, in the words that really stick out to me, is more strictly, because now we're going to get into the interpretation of what is more strictly. Because the way I look at it is, if we're treating everybody the same, then that should not even be an issue. So if we treat little Johnny and little Sally and whoever all the same, and all the kids, then this should not be even an issue. So
I understand what you're saying, and I just like to counter that with, in order to create lasting equity and equitable education, it's not that we need to treat everybody the same, it's that we need to treat everybody
Apparently.
based on how they present themselves to the school system specifically, because that's what we're talking about right now. And I would say that this is also going to align with the edits that we're making to the dress code policy. So maybe once we do that, it will clarify that a little more. But in order to be truly equitable, we're not treating every student exactly the same, because that won't really affect much change.
So I would not vote in favor of this because of this being more strictly. I would not do that because I don't agree with that.
Okay.
That's a fair point. I mean, in a perfect world, Mike, transgender students would not be targeted. Adults who work with transgender students would be more, quick and ready to accept the student's identity. That's not always the case. And we want an enduring culture of not just acceptance, but support and respect and affirmation. And this is a population that is at risk, one of the most at-risk subgroups in every single school building. And the statistics are absolutely alarming in terms of suicidal ideation, self-harm, anxiety and depression that can be crippling. So I've worked in schools for decades, and I have seen well-meaning systems fail kids. And so I absolutely support that concluding sentence.
There's also precedents for it in many other districts,
Yeah,
policies
absolutely.
as well that we
Mhm.
referenced while working on this.
Yeah. I guess it kind of comes down to that because this refers to enforcing the dress code more strictly. So that would be staff members that would be doing that, right? That's who we're referring to by doing this.
And that's why I said
Mm.
when we bring the dress code
Administrative.
up, we're
Right.
going to reevaluate who is reinforcing the dress code. So I think once the new dress code policy or draft of the new dress code policy is brought to the full committee, I think you'll see that a little more clearly.
So I guess my point being though, Hannah, on that is that if it is, and I understand you're reevaluating the dress code, the policy, but if it's the staff members,
It won't be.
so who enforces the dress code?
It's administration.
Administration.
And Mike, it's my experience that you can never advocate for kids too much. You can never advocate for an at-risk group of children too much, ever. So that's my stand on that.
Yeah.
You're muted, Patrick.
I know I'm muted. Any further discussion on this? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Via roll call, please, Mariah.
Polly Allen, absent. Hannah Air,
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
No.
She unmuted.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
I'm muted.
Patrick McHugh,
Aye. I was muted. I am horrendous today. Thank you. I don't know. I had myself muted. I don't know what was that a unanimous or not?
3-1.
3-1. Thank you. Okay. 9-3. Consider discuss a vote to approve a $500 donation to the Portsmouth High School class of 2021 for in-town signage and yard signs, students' home. Via roll call. I have a motion. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Not seeing any. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Hang on, Patrick.
Do I have discussion? Go ahead, Mike.
So this is up and beyond the money that's been sent for the post prom?
That's correct.
And this is the amount of money that was sent last year? Okay.
I can't remember what I did yesterday.
Yes, last year you sent, there was no post-prom. So they did ask for money for lawn signs. Last year they lined the name of the pathway, the name of the driveway at the high school.
The one way?
Something like, yes, the one way. They lined the one way. And so they asked for that $500, and this school committee did donate it.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion on it? Roll call vote, please.
Polly Allen, absent. Hannah Ayotte,
Aye.
Mike Rucha,
Aye.
Rita Kenahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. So it passes unanimously. 9-4. Consider, discuss, and vote to match the 2021 Doris Simmons Scholarship amount of 150 to bring total award to 300 via roll call. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it. Discussion? Not seeing any. Mariah, roll call, please.
Polly Allen, absent. Hannah Ayotte,
Aye.
Mike Rucha,
Aye.
Rita Kenahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. That passes unanimous. 9-5. Consider, discuss, and vote to approve any request for information from admin or legal counsel via roll call. Anyone?
I have a question on that, Patrick.
Go ahead.
I requested information from John Anderson in reference to school committee members being able to speak at any subcommittee meetings if we were in the audience, and I have not heard a follow-up on that.
He's not with us today. I can ask him about that, Mike, unless the superintendent gets to him first. Sometimes you have stuff that you may want to, other stuff
Yeah.
that you may need to ask him something. You might want to throw it on your notebook, but I will.
Okay.
Okay.
You know-
I wish I had known that he.
No,
Mike-
I'm gonna offer to get in touch with the Rhode Island Association of School Committees. We're all members, and I would imagine that they have that information as well.
Yeah,
Might
that's,
even get something from the Attorney General's office too. So
that's a great idea. We could save some money if you get that information. That's something you want to do, Rita? Yeah, okay. Okay, I am going to jump to 12.1 because we do not have an executive session. And 12.1 is consider and vote to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Who I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Mariah.
Polly Allen, absent. Hannah Ayotte,
Aye.
Mike Rucha,
Aye.
Rita Kenahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time tonight. Good seeing everybody.
Thank you too.
Great night.
Everybody take good care.
So have a good day tomorrow.
You